Alright, I'm Kyle Jennings, and today, if you couldn't tell by looking at me, you're going to learn a bit about the history of Florida State football. So, 2 national championships, 2 Heisman Trophy winners, 3 divisional championships, 13 Atlantic Coast Conference championships. From 1992 to 2000, they did not lose a single home football game. 14 straight seasons, finishing the season ranked in the AP poll top 5. 11 consecutive bowl wins from 1985 to 1996. And since 1971, they have only lost 1 non-BCS bowl game. This is the track record of the Florida State Seminoles football team, the team that we are lucky enough to go watch every Saturday during the fall at Doak Campbell Stadium. It is the alma mater of some of the greatest football players in the history of the sport, like Deion Sanders and Derrick Brooks. From its roots in the earliest 20th century to the rise of the legendary coach Bobby Bowden, to the absolute dominance of the football team in the 90s, Florida State has established itself as one of America's premier college football programs. So, most people and most sources would say that the football team began in 1947. While this is true for Florida State University's football team, the Florida State College, as it was known about 100 years ago, well, like 110 years ago, fielded a team around the year 1900, and they were pretty good back then. They won the state championship in 1904 and 1905. However, in 1905, the Buckman Act was passed, which made Florida State College an all-women's college, and they called it the Florida State College for Women. The men all transferred to other schools, and unfortunately, no men meant no football team. So for almost half a century, the sleeping giant that would soon be Florida State football lay dormant. With the end of World War II, hundreds of thousands of GIs returned to America with the intent on pursuing an education on the GI Bill. It was this that prompted the Florida State College to become the Florida State University, and now a co-educational institution. And in 1947, President Doak Campbell established a football team. The first coach of the football team was Ed Williamson. He was a pretty bad coach. He coached only 1 season, 5 games, and lost all of them. You can imagine today, compared to what we have, playing only 5 games and losing all of them. And to this day, he is the only coach to not win any games as a head coach. Now, competition was tough back then. You can imagine, after only starting a football team in 1947, competing with a bunch of other schools in the South, like Ole Miss, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, not only on the field, but recruiting players. It was very difficult. Soon after this, coaches Don Veller and Tom Nugent became head coaches, not at the same time, obviously. 1950 saw the Seminoles' first undefeated season, going 8-0, and they're finding a new home in Doak Campbell Stadium, which was named to honor Dr. Doak Campbell. In 1960, the head coach was Bill Patterson. While he was a great head coach on the field, what he was really known for was his recruitment of African American athletes. Now, this was something that he did not consult the school officials when he did in 1967, and it happened only 2 years after Fred Flowers became the first African American man to represent Florida State on a sports team. He's actually the baseball player you see out on the integration statue. So, and that can be found on myweb.fsu.edu. Patterson coached for about 10 years, and then Florida State went back into a slump. But the face of the program was about to change forever. In 1976, Bobby Bowden arrived on the scene. He was only 46 years old, but already had 20 years coaching experience. In his first season, it was kind of mediocre. He had his only losing season in his 34-year tenure. The next season, he turned that around and won 10 games. The team finished for the first time in the AP Top 20, and they defeated Texas Tech in a bowl game. He himself stated in a TV interview he could not have predicted this turnaround, but he said he continued to build on it. His winning mentality was that success was not built overnight, but little by little, brick by brick. He also sought to recruit players who sought to give more to the program than they took from it. In 1979, he continued to build on his success with another 10-win season, losing the only game of that year to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. This rise to power continued into the early 1980s, but it was only a small taste of what was to come. 1987 began the streak of AP top 5 finishes. Part of the success at this time can be contributed to the player Deion Sanders, whose lightning-fast speed on kick returns and smothering coverage as a defensive back electrified audiences and made other players want to come and play with a guy like this. In 1989, Charlie Ward Charlie Ward came here. Soon after, won the starting quarterback job. He won the Heisman Trophy in 1993 and won the national championship, the school's first national championship. He's one of the few players in the history of college football to win the national championship and the Heisman Trophy in the same year. The following year, the Seminoles pulled off one of the greatest upsets in college football history, which became known as the Choke at Doak. They overcame a 31-3 fourth quarter deficit against the Florida Gators to tie the game and preserve their streak with no losses at home during that 10 years. In 1999, they won their second national championship under the leadership of quarterback Chris Weinke and wide receiver Peter Warrick. The next year, Chris Weinke won the Heisman. After this, the team's success began to decline slightly, although they were still a very respected national football team. Bobby Bowden capped off his 34-year career in 2009 with a win over the West Virginia Mountaineers in the Gator Bowl. After that, his offensive coordinator, Jimbo Fisher, took over and has had success in his past 3 seasons. And as you witnessed about a month or 2 ago, he won our first ACC championship in 7 years and led us to an Orange Bowl victory. In conclusion, since the mid-70s, Florida State has been one of the premier college football programs. It has been the alma mater of some of the greatest players in the history of the sport. From the early 1900s, it has exemplified greatness on and off the field with its rich history, traditions, legendary coach, and elite players that can make us proud to call ourselves Florida State Seminoles. And with the recent successes on the field and in recruiting some of the nation's top prospects, Seminole fans everywhere should be excited for the road ahead.